Good day, and welcome to the League of Women Voters Meet the Candidates Forum, a program produced in collaboration with WTJX for well over 35 years. It is our hope that through these programs that you, the voting public, will have a better understanding of each candidate running for the elected office in the Virgin Islands. We invite you to look at all of our programs for the 2022 election year right here on WTJX, with candidates seeking office as a senator in the 35th legislature or as governor and lieutenant governor. Although all candidates running for these positions were invited, not all were responded or accepted the invitation. We are delighted to have you with us here today. Two candidates running for the position of senator in the St. Thomas-St. John district. I am Jeannine Francis-Brown, a member of the League of Women Voters of the Virgin Islands, and I serve as the moderator for today's program. The candidates have been informed in advance of the guidelines for the program. No candidate had access to the questions in advance. The first responder to each question will be rotated among the participants. Answers will generally be kept to 60 or 90 seconds with challenges and rebuttals of 60 seconds each. Changes in timing of the question will be announced in advance. Any comment directed specifically at another participant will be followed by a rebuttal of 60 seconds. All are expected to be respectful of one another. So, let's begin. I will ask each candidate to identify who they are and to state their political affiliation and ballot number. We will learn more about each as our discussion ensues. Let's start with the first candidate. To my right. Senator Joseph.
A pleasant good day. I am Carla Joseph, and I'm a Democrat seeking a position in the 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands.
Next candidate.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Margaret Price. I'm with the Independent Citizens Movement, ICM, and I am number 13 on the ballot.
Thank you. Now for our first question. Let's begin by talking about your readiness to be a senator. Here's a two-part question for which you will each have 90 seconds to answer. Ms. Price, this question would be for you. As a candidate for the seat in the Virgin Island Legislature, what are your competencies as well as education or training that will make you a good choice to address our issues as a senator? One. And what are your recent accomplishments that show your skills and readiness to assume the responsibilities of the office? Please answer both parts of the question, 90 seconds.
Thank you. Educational background, I have an associate degree from Malcolm X. I have a Bachelor's of Arts degree, dual with sociology, psychology from DePaul University. I have a master's degree in inner city study education. I have a Juris Doctor degree. I'm a registered nurse. I also am a former school teacher, retired from Charlotte Amalia High School, which I taught for 17 years. I have an ESL in English as a second language teacher. As far as my skills, I have worked with the homeless. I'm also chairperson of a disaster case management unit in which after the hurricane from Irma and Maria, we came in existence and we provided relief for those who needed relief. We had volunteers flown in from FEMA who were able to put roofs on the people's homes. We also have feeding programs for the people. Currently, I'm giving out I'm giving out tarps for individuals. I have consulted with ministers in case of an impending storm, to be able to have parishioners come in, set a date where they bring in non-perishable foods.
Thank you. For Senator Joseph, what have been your accomplishments as a senator over the past 2 years that you feel justify your reelection? Also 90 seconds.
One of the major accomplishments that I want to really talk about is something that I campaigned on in 2020, which was working with all of our stakeholders to fix the leak with our government employees' retirement system. We were able to accomplish that. Another one of my major accomplishments is working with my colleagues in the legislature to also get the much needed retroactive pay for our government workers. We just passed that legislation giving $40 million to retirees and other hard-working government workers what is due. And in addition to that, we were able to restore the 8% to all of our government employees. And one of the key areas I want to focus on is something that I call my mission. My mission is to assure that the zonings that come before us are not passed wherein it is a heavily residential dense area and we don't have bars and restaurants in our residential areas, because our people need to have some peace. So what I have done is tack on restrictions on rezoning that would allow restrictions on rezoning, so those types of bars and restaurants would not be allowed. I'm number 3 on the ballot.
Thank you. Now let's talk about your vision for the Virgin Islands. 2027 will mark the 100th anniversary of American citizenship for Virgin Islanders and 110 years since purchase from Denmark. The question is, what is your vision with respect to self-governance for the USVI, and what role do you intend to play, if any? And please note, the self-governance does not necessarily imply independence. 60 seconds, starting with Ms. Price.
My vision is that as an island, that we can come together, that we can diminish crime, that we can have the GRS in place where it needs to be, and that WAPA has gotten itself together so that our utilities can go down drastically, and that we as Virgin Islanders can put our locals to work and stop bringing in foreign companies to take the money out and give back to their country and donate nothing to our islands. We need our people to work. We need to have housing for the homeless. We need to have better insurance care. We need to have better health. We need to have qualified staff and new hospitals. We need to have our schools where children are taught African history, Caribbean history, all types of history, and not just Virgin Island history, but they need to know who they are. And they need to know that if they know who they are, that they can accomplish what they will.
Thank you. Senator Joseph, same question. 60 seconds.
One of the things that we were able to do in the 34th legislature is to get from an agriculture plan. I think that was already legislation that was passed before. But one of the key things that help us to move forward and to be a bit more independent is for us to be able to have food security, have that level of agriculture where we are able to sustain ourselves. So the sustainability, and also looking at moving towards self-governance, meaning we're no longer a territory, incorporated territory, but looking at us being either a organized, independent, or having our own constitution. But I think what is key for me, and I'm hoping is key for most of us as people, is also to also be able to vote for the President of the United States of America.
Thank you. On the topic of moral and ethical behavior, to what extent should moral or ethical issues in the private life of political candidates be taken into account by voters in making their choices, and why? Starting with Senator Joseph, 60 seconds.
Thank you so much for that question. I think morals and ethics play a huge role because that helps determine your decision making. If you have a level of ethics and morals that are at a higher standard, then it allows others in our community to be able to emulate it. We as leaders are supposed to model the way. We cannot have a leader wherein their morals and their ethics in their private lives is now spreading into their public servant's life, because it will distort, especially our young people, their image and what they perceive as a leader and a leader should be. There are sacrifices that you have to make and maintain to keep a high level of morals and ethics, but it's required in this arena. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Price, same question.
Yes, thank you for
60
that
seconds.
question. When we talk about morality, we talk about upbringing. It starts at home. It starts with your parents. It starts with going to school. It starts with education. It starts with going to church. Moral turpitude is something that we all value. It's not a what you see is what you get type situation. People use that too much, saying what you see is what you get. That does not detonate what is called morality. Moral is something that is ingrained, something that you learn in the womb of your parents. And once you come out of that womb, then the morality begins, training, upbringing from the parents itself, upbringing from those who are around you. And when people see that you are a good person, they want to emulate. They see what you do. They see the goodness of you. They see whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish.
Thank you. Let's talk about some major concerns. In a recent poll of the electorate in 2022, voters identified 4 areas of major concern as being education, crime, health, and WAPA. Let's look at each one separately and address what your responses would be for those matters if elected to the 35th legislature. With respect to education, cited by voters as one of the 4 major areas of concern, what do you see as the primary challenges facing education today, and what would be your strategies for addressing them as a senator in the 35th legislature? 90 seconds, Senator Joseph.
Thank you so much for that question. That's a very critical question. One of the major issues that we have in our community, especially after the 2 double hurricanes, as well as the pandemic, is finding teachers to teach our young people. That is one of the major challenges that we're having. And what occurs is that we have a level of process where the teacher has to be highly qualified. I would submit that one of the things that we need to look at, and this is the Board of Education, is to really have a bit of an internship program where persons can actually come in without having all of the qualifications for a certain time, as they move forward and actually are able to teach and work until they get those qualifications, because we really are in need of a lot to teachers. That is one of the major challenges that we're facing here in the government and in our public education system. And also the schools are in dire need of paraprofessional security, monitors. A lot needs to be poured into the education system because they are the future of our islands. If we are not educated as a people, then where are we going to progress and how are we going to thrive in the future? Thank you so much for that question.
Thank you. Ms. Price, same question, 90 seconds.
As far as education, there's things that really get my gall, and that is the curriculum. The curriculum itself needs to be overhauled. And as far as overhauling it, we need to have more inclusion, and we need to have funding. We're lacking the funding we needed for certain technical and vocational programs. We need those programs because of the fact that we have survived 2 hurricanes, and with these hurricanes, we have lost a lot. Buildings, infrastructures, everything is gone that we really need. And we need these type of vocational and technical schools available for students so that they can become masonaries, they can become bricklayers, they can become marine biologists, and they can help rebuild our islands to the point whereas we can stabilize and go back to where we were prior to Irma and Maria. We need to include more of African and Caribbean history along with the Virgin Island history. Another thing that we need to do is to focus on our children being children. The nonsense about this gender wearing, boys wearing skirts to school, girls wearing pants to school, that itself is something we need to deal with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you say you want to rebut?
Yes.
So you have 60 seconds.
Thank you. I want to make it clear, the Department of Education has a lot of money. In fact, many of their federal grants, some of their federal grants are in jeopardy. So that's not the issue. We need hands on deck. We need people who are able to do the work. We need teachers who are committed to teach every day. The vocational training programs that we have instructors. But guess what? We don't have enough children, young people who want to go into some of those vocational training programs. CTEC. They have a CTEC program in St. Croix. And they also have those type of programs here at Charlotte Amalie High School. There's also the Raphael O. Wheatley Skills Center. They offer a lot of other types of training. The issue is not the money. We have the money. The issues is we need the bodies. We have a deficiency with a number of human capitals and people ready to do the work. We got to get to work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next question. With respect to health, cited by voters as one of the top 4 major concerns, many leave the territory in search of health care, especially on St. Croix. What do you see as the primary challenges regarding health care, and what would be your strategies for addressing them as a senator in the 35th legislature? Starting with Ms. Price, 90 seconds.
As far as health care, what I see is there isn't not a suitable health care that covers the people of the Virgin Islands. And therefore, it's lacking. And we have a Charlotte Kimmelman Radiation Center that has been down since Irma Maria. Why? That should have been the first thing up and running after the hurricane. Healthcare itself, we have healthcare, yes, we do, but doctors, some clinics don't take some forms of healthcare from patients. So we need a viable healthcare that is for the good of all patients and not be selected because of who you are, where you're from, or whatever. We need a good health care to come in here. We need good doctors, board certified doctors. We need doctors coming in here that want to come in and help the patient, not to come in here and get rich. So therefore, we need a better health care plan. And I'm sure that once we get into this here and the senators and the colleagues and everyone else work together, we can assure that this territory will get the health care that they readily deserve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Joseph, same question, 90 seconds.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Brown. I want to talk about something that is very key in healthcare. It's called preventative health. We have opportunities here to prevent a lot of the diseases that we have, but we don't take the time, take the interest, and we don't eat right. We have to start exercising. We have to start also eating healthy diets. That is one of the major key. A lot of our physicians are really stressing, and this is something that is going on throughout the nation and throughout the world. They're talking about preventative care. So that's one portion. And yes, our Charlotte Camelman Cancer Center is not up and running, but there's money there to rebuild it. FEMA has already granted all of the funding to rebuild the Charlotte Kimmelman Cancer Institute, and we are hoping that it comes up online soon. And the issue regarding health insurance, yes, we don't have sufficient health insurance for all of our people. That is a truth. And we are working on looking at it and looking at how to expand the Medicaid. But I want to stress something very much. Health is wealth. We have a right, and that's one of our responsibilities as human beings, to be able to take care of ourselves and our overall health. Work, and we're doing a lot relative to preventative health care. Thank you so much for that question.
Thank you. With respect to WAPA, as one of the top 4 concerns cited by voters, what do you see as the major challenges for WAPA, and what would be your strategies for addressing them as a senator in the 35th legislature, starting with Ms. Senator Joseph, 90 seconds.
Thank you so much for that question. WAPA is one of the entities that falls under my jurisdiction as chairperson of the Committee on Government Operations and Consumer Protection. WAPA has a lot of challenges. My committee, we went on a tour of WAPA. I have tried to call them back in front of our committee. And so I would say one of the major issues that they have is a poor morale with the workers. They have not been able, and these are our people, they have not been able to get any increase in their pay for years. That's one of the issues. We have a lot of very skilled and knowledgeable workers at WAPA. Also, we have a lot of aging generators at WAPA, and right now they're trying to put those online. But I can't stop without saying we've made some bad decisions in the past with WAPA. We've made some really heavy, really poor decisions, and we're paying the cost for it. But I'm thinking, and I'm hopeful that with the new leadership at WAPA, we will see some of the changes and we won't see some of those bad decisions. I definitely want to see that the WAPA employees, especially those are unionized, that they get their new unionized contracts in place. It needs to happen because they have a low morale. They're not being paid sufficient monies. And then 2, their GRS benefits are in jeopardy. So we have a lot to do, and we have to also look at alternative energy sources with WAPA. Those are some of the key items that we really need to look at to help decrease the costs. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Price, same
Yes.
question, 90 seconds.
Thank you for the question. The first thing that we need to do is a forensic audit, because WAPA's been getting a lot of money, and every time you look around, they're requesting new generators, or generators are breaking down. We have too much power outages and everything else. As a senator, if I'm elected as a senator, what I would like to see change is a bill whereas WAPA is finally accountable for the damages that they do when they have these power outages through the surges, when electricity is restored. WAPA also needs to be placed in a state of emergency for restructuring purposes, because they're really not doing anything that's we can see that's evident that really helping the territory in itself. As far as the workers, yes, they have been hollering for years that they're not getting paid what they're qualified to do. And I also believe that WAPA there should be alternative forms of energy and get rid of the fossil fuel in essence of what we call climate change. WAPA itself, the board members should be restructured. We should have, the board members at WAPA should be elected like you do senators, governors, and everyone else.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a rebuttal to this
That
statement.
would be 60 seconds.
Thank you. We did have an audit that was performed And that audit was very thorough and enlightening. And also relative to the statement regarding paying for damages to electrical appliances and WAPA, a constituent called me today and indicated that that is something that is being done now. She encountered an issue with one of the power outages with one of her appliances, and they sent her a form. So I do know that that is being put in place right now in WAPA. So we have an audit that was done and is viable, but definitely we need to really push forward with the alternative energy, wind, as well as solar energy, so we could diversify our energy sources. Thank you so much for that question.
Thank you. For the first time in about 25 years, GERS was not identified as a major concern. What is your understanding of why this is so, and what lessons can we learn about how this came to be so? Senator, we'll start with you, 60 seconds.
Thank you so much for that question, and I'm happy that GRS is not one of the top 5 issues, because the 34th legislature, which I'm a member of, we had a subcommittee. We worked day and night, long hours, along with members of the GRS system and the Office of the Governor to fix that leak. I was a member of that subcommittee. My team will tell you we worked tirelessly. We had a lot of long hours, and we came up with a solution that is working and will continue to work. But we want to assure that that leak does not happen. Just like a leak in your home, we have to continually monitor it to make sure that there's no breaches. And I would like to be your senator there and your servant to continue to monitor that. Thank you so much for that question.
Thank you. Ms. Price, same question, 60 seconds.
Yes, I applaud GRS for coming up to par the way that they should, but they still have a long ways to go, and they have been bailed out. And that is one of the reasons why they're not in the top 5 now. But GRS needs to get board members on there that are knowledgeable of the system itself. GRS also needs to have a little bit restructuring done. I'm not saying that they should have a forensic audit, because I don't know if they have one, but what they should do is to be able to diversify when it comes to giving out the loans and things that they give out, because they see that they give out these loans and then it's forfeited. Also, I would like to see GRS starting to give back to the employees of the government, giving back loans. You know, they are saying that they couldn't, but there is a possibility that they can now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Price. With respect to crime, cited by voters as one of the top 4 major concerns, what do you see as the challenges, and what would be your strategies for addressing them as a senator in the 35th legislature? Ms. Price, 90 seconds.
Yes, my challenge with that is the fact that you have government coming into, I remember when coming up, whereas no one outside agencies interfered with the household. Parents were able to be parents. Now you're having agencies saying what you as a parent can and cannot do in your household. You have parents that are afraid of children. You have parents who are saying, I can't do anything for my child. You have parents who see the child doing things that are wrong. You see parents that have children coming in with guns, have children that have drugs coming in the household, but they're too frightened to talk to someone about that. Parents need to be parents. Parents need to tell the children, they need to raise children the way they were raised. As far as crime, we need more preventive program for the youngsters, because there's nothing really too much that they can do. There's basketball, there's baseball, but not everyone is into baseball and basketball. What are the preventive programs? Why are there not parents coming together, going to agencies? We need more police involvement so that the children can see that Police do care about them, and they're not the bad guys. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. Senator Joseph, same question.
One of
90
the,
seconds.
Thank you so much for that question. One of the major issue we do have is getting a lot of preventative crime programs, but we do have some in place already. We have the Boys and Girls Club of St. Thomas and St. John. I have sponsored, really championed that organization because I've worked deep in the trenches in Oswald Harris Court housing community for over a decade, and I've seen the work that they do. And I really champion getting them funding to continue to do that work. But most importantly, we have to look at getting more mentorship programs, getting programs and people to those families, putting in place again that parent university so that the parents have some support, and also challenging our faith-based organizations to go into our communities and to give those young people and their families some hope that things can be better and they can be better, and your environment doesn't determine your trajectory. I'm from public housing, Bavoni housing community. I lived there for 26 years. It was a church that saved me and turned me around. So that in itself is a recipe for success, your faith. And so I think those are some of the things that we need to do. I've already started a mentoring program in my home community, and I plan to continue that. Thank you so much for that question.
Thank you. Under the same topic of crime, sexual assault against our children is a concern in our community. Recent disclosure of assaults against 12 schoolboys by a teacher is shocking, and the community was rightfully outraged. But girls are raped and assaulted too. How can you, as a senator, protect our boys and girls from sexual assaults by adults? Senator Joseph, 60 seconds.
One of the things that we really need to do is do a lot of background checks, check people. We just had a discussion about morality and ethics. Those are some of the things that we can do. But also we need to have a keen eye and conversations with young people and listen when they are alerting us about issues that they have. This incident that you're referring to, adults were told. Adults were told, and they may not have believed. Apparently did not believe the young people. We have to be able to listen to our young people and let them know they have a voice and they can be counted. And then we have to be able to have programs in place where they can go to a safe haven and know, I am not going to be judged here. A person can I can tell them what are troubling me, and that would be kept confidentially. I think those are some of the things that we can work with and do. Thank you so much for the question.
Thank you. Ms. Price, same question, 60
Yes.
seconds.
Unfortunately, the person who committed that crime was there during the time that I was a teacher at that particular school. And it's so surreal that when you see people like that, you can't even begin to imagine that person like that is capable of doing something like that, because the personality difference doesn't match to what they actually do. I think what we need more of is we need more counselors in the school system. We need a clinic where there's counselors where students can actually go to and feel comfortable enough to say, hey, this happened to me. We need people in the schools who, just because you're friends with the people, and when they tell you something like that, don't turn your back. Do something. If you see something, say something.
Thank you, Ms. Price. On the topic of economic development, the pandemic has shown us that we need to diversify our economy and supplement our dependence on tourism. What other opportunities do you see besides tourism and alcohol for growing and diversifying our economy? And what are the challenges to making them a reality? Ms. Price, we'll start with you, 60 seconds.
Thank you for that question. And I have been preaching to the choir for the longest about dependency on the cruise ship. It wasn't just way before the Irma Maria hit. There was times whereas cruise ships did not come in, and if you looked at your stores, it was like Mother Hubbard's cupboard. They were beginning to be bare. We cannot depend on just tourism to sustain us. There are other things that we can do. Bring in, please, bring in different types of activities to be done. You have boxcar racing. You have where you can have little mini carnivals during the week. You can have on Friday nights, you can utilize Main Street and have plays and things for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Senator, same question, 60 seconds.
Okay, so there are a very diverse group of tourism that can happen. We have entertainment, we have sport tourism. So I won't delve into those because that would still all come under the umbrella of tourism. What I want to look at is what we're offering and what we can offer, and through our EDA programs, those types of businesses to come in, those type of financial businesses to come into the Virgin Islands and invest here because we have that level of enticement. We can look at industries that are not going to adversely affect our environment. Watchmaking industry, also computer building industry, all of those type of industries that can come in, and even recyclable. Recently, I had a conversation with someone who wants to take our sargassum and turn it into fertilizer. Those are type of industry that we want to look at. Thank you so much.
I'd like to rebuttal that.
Thank you. We have 60 seconds.
This is the very reason why we need our trade schools and technical schools, because we can teach our youth to be bricklayers, masonaries. They can do all types of things, computer, technology, cabinetry building, woodworking, all of that can be accessible to the economy itself. Yes, we can bring in businesses and things like that, but do those businesses come in to deal with the actual community and actual bringing back and giving to the community, or are they just coming in and takers, being takers? Yes, we need all of that. But first of all, we need to get ourselves as a community together. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. Medical and recreational marijuana were intended as a possible boost to the economy, and an office has been created to develop policies and procedures for oversight in the territory. It appears that little has come from it thus far. What do you see as the role of the legislature in addressing this matter? Ms. Price, 60 seconds.
The role of the legislature, thank you for that question, first of all. The role of the legislature is addressing that question is, we need to get that together as soon as possible. There's still some technicalities with federal not allowing it, the money to go into the bank, but that can be offset. But we need the medical marijuana on the island. There are people that are hurting. There are people that don't have the money to go to the doctors. There are people that don't have the money to go to the hospital. And they're actually hurting. They're in pain. Medical marijuana can help sustain the pain. And the cost is not that much when you compare it to going to a hospital or the clinic. I see no reason why they don't get it together and let the people utilize it for the good.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Senator Joseph, same question, 60 seconds.
Okay, let's talk about the weed. That herb that is so good at healing a nation. That's why I think one of our persons that was a good singer said, we do have a cannabis board and it is functioning. They have just started to put out their rules and regulation. That is for the medicinal marijuana. There are outlets here that offer certain type of CBD and all of those types. So those things are happening. When we look now at the recreational portion of it, that is where we're having a challenge. There is legislation. I know one of my colleagues, she has the authorship on that piece of legislation for us to be able to really capitalize on it. Contingent of our colleagues, my colleagues went to Colorado to talk about it, and so I know that it's on everybody's forefront. So I'm hopeful that we will be able to address it soon.
Thank you so much. Let's turn our attention to the environment and climate change for a minute. For over 30 years ago, the League has asked the same question regarding the development of a land and water use plan for the territory. And without fail, over the past 30 years, plus gubernatorial and senatorial candidates alike have pledged that on their watch, a plan would be developed. None has, none. So we instead asked this question: what impact, if any, have you seen on the territory as a result of not having a plan? And what do you see as a concern moving forward without a plan? Starting with you, Senator, 60 seconds.
Thank you so much for that. I have been one of those champions because I was a president of the Environmental Association of St. Thomas and St. John for over 10 years. There was a plan at the end of former Governor Alexander Farrelly's time. What we've seen now, because we don't have a plan that is implemented, and that plan was not implemented, is that we see a lot of spot zoning. And that's why I talked about initially in my introduction about things that I have championed regarding environmental protection and having developments that are not conducive for residential area. Case in point, we have a bar and a restaurant operating in a heavily dense residential area. What I have done in my tenure in the legislature is definitely move legislation to amend any rezoning that's coming to restrict bars and restaurants from operating in residential areas. But we have a lot more work to do. I do know the administration is working on getting a comprehensive land and water use plan together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. Ms. Price, same question, 60 seconds.
Yes, as far as land and water use, the availability, I don't see why there should be any type of confusion or any type of anything going wrong, because look at the sea out there. We have so much water. Why can't they desalinate that water and bring it into the island itself? Why do we have to go and buy water all the time? They say, I asked them, UVI, is the water, when I went to a meeting, I said, is that water drinkable out of your sink? Okay. They said, yes, but have you ever taken a test and taken it actually to the lab and seen the germs and things in there? Yes, people have done that. And so why is it that we cannot get WAPA together so they can desalinate and bring in fresh water into your homes?
Thank you, Ms. Price. There's a rebuttal.
Yes, first of all,
60 seconds.
Thank you.
Sorry.
First of all, WAPA does have a reverse osmosis operation. It contracts to 7 seas, and that is happening. And it takes the water out of the ocean, okay? The comprehensive land and water use is how we build, how we are going to build and use our land and our ocean. And are we going to have fill land? Where are we going to place certain types of businesses? Do we place industrial businesses in an area that is heavily residential? Those are plans. So that takes a lot of complex study and assessments, and that is what we need. We need a complex assessment because we are really short on space, especially in St. Thomas, St. John district. St. Croix, you're vast, but we really need a comprehensive land and water use plan because it goes a long way, especially in protecting our natural environment and our oceans and our coral reefs. Thank you so much.
Rebuttal.
Thank you. You have 60
I agree
seconds.
with you that WAPA does have an osmosis type
Reverse
situation.
osmosis.
They have a reverse osmosis. But if you take your water to a lab, WAPA itself still has a report comes out every so often, and it actually tells you what's in the water in your system. So therefore, we still need them to correct with this reverse osmosis, desalination, so that the water that's coming out of your sink is actually drinkable.
Okay. Thank you.
I just want to...
I'm sorry. We're going to move on to the next
Thank
question.
you. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Appreciate it.
Along the topic of climate change, what do you perceive as potential adverse impacts of climate change on the territory? What would you do as a senator to ensure that attention is brought to mitigating those impacts? Starting with you, Ms. Price, 60 seconds.
Climate change is a hot topic all around the world. First of all, we need to start being able to reduce certain situations that cause the actual climate change itself. The smog, one thing that our territory doesn't have, that in the state, a lot of smog that actually destroys climate change. We have good, clean air. So I'm saying that we can do much better with climate change. I'm not too familiar with it, so I'm not going to talk about it a lot. But I do know that we in this territory could do a little bit better with climate change and the things that we use to protect our territory.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Senator Joseph, same question, 60 seconds.
Okay, so we are seeing a lot of challenges with climate change. We have coral bleaching with our corals and how this affects our ecosystem, because corals are an essential area in our ecosystem that is necessary for fish, and everybody likes to eat fish and the like. So we really want to look at how the warming of our waters is affecting us here in the Virgin Islands. I know there was some movement of afoot to do some coral replanting. Those are things that we really need to look at too and fund those type of programs to replant corals. But one of the other key items I want to go back to is that comprehensive land and water use plan. We have a lot of sediment and erosion because of building. We need to put in place, and it's all outlined there at DPNR, the type of silt fences that we need to put in place to prevent erosion and sediment control. Those are the things that we need to do to assure that we maintain our coral reefs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, time certainly flies when you have a good time. Our final question is your choice. I invite you to answer either one of these questions that I'm about to ask. You have 60 seconds. Address any other topic of concern that you have interest in along with your strategy for addressing the topic, or identify a major piece of legislation that you intend on introducing over the next 2 years as a senator and indicate why, starting with Ms. Price. 60 seconds.
Thank you for that question. My baby is agriculture. Agriculture. Why are we not helping the farmers as much as they should be helped? Especially with food security and with, with hurricanes and things, we're not guaranteed that we're going to get food shipped in here. So why are we not helping the farmers? We need an infrastructure, whereas we need water tanks. We need WAPA to back them up. We need funding for them. My problem is I went out along with a campaign manager a couple of weeks ago to the abattoir. Why is that abattoir being closed so many years? When you take animals over to St. Croix, you stress them out. And that stress goes into the meat and things for those who eat meat, and sometimes your meat is tough and everything. We need to get those farmers together so St. Thomas can be the farming industry of the islands. Thank you
Ms.
for that
Price.
question.
Senator Joseph, same question, 60 seconds.
Thank you. One of the major pieces of legislation that I'm currently working on deals with our seniors. We don't have any continuum of care, meaning we don't have any skilled nursing facility, we don't have any assisted nursing facility, and we have a very large aging population. And it's how we are going to be able to care for our seniors and have them treated with dignity. So I am in the process, and it's a very lengthy process of developing some rules and regulations and some laws, looking at all over the states in preparation of doing that. We have a great underserved but well-deserving senior population who deserve that type of care as they transition out of life, and to have persons to treat them with a level of dignity. And so that's one of the major areas that I'd be looking at should I be elected to the 35th legislature. Thank you.
And thank you. And now we go to candidate closing statements. Now, each candidate will have 90 seconds for their closing statement, and we will start with Senator Joseph.
I am your servant and Senator Carla Joseph, asking you to come out again and give me one of your votes. I have worked tirelessly with my colleagues in the legislature and fighting and championing issues such as GRS, retroactive pay, assuring that we have a level of accountability and transparency. I fought for you to get itemized budget. I fought for you to get your retroactive pay back. I also fought for our elders and retirees with GRS. I want to be able to continue to fight for you. A vote for me is a vote for accountability. A vote for me is about transparency. A vote for me is about a level of humility and trust and integrity. So I'm urging everyone and I'm asking you humbly to come out again this election in the general and vote number 3, Carla Joseph. A vote for Carla Joseph is a vote for all of we. Vote number 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Price, 90 seconds.
Yes, thank you for that question. Hi, I'm Margaret Price. I know if you're like me, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired of all the negativity that's taking place in the island that's actually impacting our progress to move forward. Like, for instance, crime, lack of accountability, visibility. You also have price gouging, WAPA, GRS at stake. You have housing. You have a lack of decent curriculum for our students in education. There is no respect for the elders. We need housing. We need to have preventive programs for crime. We need to have preventive programs for students to help them get a better footing in education and a better sense of self-respect. So therefore, I'm asking you to come up out of the trenches and be the foot soldiers for change. And we can do this together. And we can say to the world that we in the islands have done it and that we are free at last of all the negativity that's taken place. So if you really want a change, come and join my caravan of change. Thank you. Margaret Price, number 13, ICM Party.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates, and thank you, WTJX and staff, for today's program. The League of Women Voters hopes this program has helped you to gain a better understanding of the candidates, and in so doing, will inform your vote in November. The League reminds you that your vote determines the future of the Virgin Islands. Every vote does count. During elections, we often see an individual who barely makes the cut because a few more people did vote, or one who barely loses and wishes if only a few more people had voted. So let your voice be heard by your vote. It's your right. Take it. Thank you for watching. I am Jeannine Francis-Brown for the League of Women Voters of the Virgin Islands, saying vote early or vote in November, but vote.